Hello, everybody. Dr. Mel here, and tonight we are going live talking about how to influence without apology, right? Why softening your voice actually kills your influence. And so this live is for the women, okay? This is for the women. Women, I need you to come on in the room because we're talking about this truth that we need to really accept that's happening so that we can actually work around dismantling that truth, okay? Many women, especially us as black women, we tend to shrink our voice, right? We want to play it safe. We want to do the right things, right? We want to sound acceptable. And what we're doing is actually softening or shrinking our voice to play it safe. And here's why that's a problem. Softening your voice is a nervous system response, not a personality trait. You were not born to be timid. You were not born to sleep on your greatness. You were not born to not bring forth your ideas, your genius, your talent, your expertise. You were not born to be that type of soft, right? I know we're hearing a lot in the world about softness. And when I'm talking about softness, I'm not necessarily talking about your volume or even your tone of voice, right? We're talking about the way in which you enter a room, the manner, the energy that you bring when you go into a space, right? And how you shrink back for fear that others are going to think a certain way about you, others are going to perceive and make meaning about you in a way that makes you feel judged, right? And this is a survival pattern. I see it all the time. I've dealt with it myself. It is a survival pattern. And what it does is kills influence, it kills your clarity, it kills your authority. So we've got to be really, really aware of that. So if you're in the room, I'm going to share this out on Instagram to a few folks. Y'all share it out in your places and spaces to the people, especially to our women. This is for the women, right? Because we need to be in spaces where we can normalize these conversations around this. I want to hear from you guys in the chat and letting me know, how are you dealing with this soft girl era, right? What does it mean to y'all to be soft? And I am all for being quote unquote soft, but here's my definition of soft. When I think about soft, I think about being willing and okay to lean into my full self and not have to force my way into any space for people to have to accept me, for people to be persuaded to believe that I am valuable, that I am this and I am that. Softness allows me to go into a space, lean into that space, speak when I need to speak, listen when I need to listen, and be okay with what goes down, right? And so I know for a lot of folks, we're dealing with, especially for us as women, this survival pattern. And I have a beautiful sister that I'm in relationship with. We're actually each other's accountability partner. And her mantra, or part of her mantra for her business, is survival. In talking about survival, I'm trying to think of how she says it. But it gives the essence that survival is not your birthright, right? Survival is not where you have to stay, because when you are in survival mode in your body, your brain is literally scanning the environment for what it perceives as safety. And let me tell you, if your patterns that have been built up from childhood through young adulthood, through your experiences in the workplace, if these patterns are not healthy, if these patterns have moved you to silence, or you have been silenced, right? What did Oprah say? Were you silent or were you silenced? If these patterns are normal to you, your body, your brain will perceive them as safe, and it will look for ways to get you into a space where you fit into that paradigm of silence, that paradigm of shrinking yourself so that you can feel okay, right? And so the neuroscience behind that is that, and I love this neuroscience behind this work, because when we think about our responses, our personalities, a lot of our personalities and who we are as women is not really connected to who God designed us to be. Let me say that again. The personalities that some of us have right now, if we've not done the work of healing, the work of taking care of the soul, the work of having to unlearn some of these patterns that we've recognized as actually unhealthy, right? If we've not done that work, you're not really living in who you really are designed to be. And this journey that I am blessed to be on right now, that every woman should be a part of, is this journey of self-discovery. It is this journey of self-discovery that is looking back to see, who was I? Who am I before all of the influences? Before all of the things happened in my life that made me feel like my voice did not matter. Before all the things that happened in my life. Hey, Carla. See, that's why I had to pull my phone up, because I can't even see who's on LinkedIn. So sorry about that. But it makes you think about, who am I before all the layers? Before I had to become a mother, if you're a mother. Before I became a wife. Before I became a sister, a caretaker. Before I became somebody responsible. Before I was parentified as a child, and I was more responsible for helping others. Is that my cousin? Hey, Angela. I think that's my cousin. But to all of that, you have to think about, who were you at your core before all those layers? And when you think about who you are in connection to who you've become, sometimes it's not congruent. Sometimes it doesn't connect. One thing I've learned is that, for example, with me as a young girl, sometimes I would be very mean, right? And I grew up believing that I was mean. Yes, that's my beautiful cousin. Hey, girl. I grew up believing that I was mean. And my therapist had to sit back and say, no, I want you to think about what came up for you as a child. What kind of things did you see? What kind of responses did you take? And how did that begin to shape your personality? And what I began to learn is that I was more of a protector, because I felt as a child that I had to protect other people, which is absolutely ludicrous. But you're a kid and your brain doesn't really understand that that's out of line and it's inappropriate developmentally, but that is what you perceive. And then you respond in ways that are similar to you based on what you've seen in your home, in your community, in your church, in all of the spaces that really curate our identity. And so this is why sometimes when we look at us as women, a lot of times we're termed as being too loud, especially Black women. We can go in places and spaces, and if we're laughing too much, if we're, kikiing with our girlfriends or our cousins or our sisters or whomever, we're just having a good time, we get the side eye. We get the ones, we get the comments about, we need y'all to quiet down. Now, don't get a group of white men that are at the bar watching a football game. See, this happened to me last night. I was on a solo date. I had my coloring book. I had all my things laid out. I was eating really good. And I had to put my headphones on because there were a group of men, and I think it was one or two ladies, at the bar watching a football game. And nothing happened to them watching the game, right? It was perceived as normal. And it made me think, because I put my headphones on because I was in a zone with me and God. It was a daddy-daughter day. I was zoned out, focusing on my journaling and my coloring and just relaxing. But it made me think about, what if that was a group of Black women in a space that doesn't really welcome us? How would we have been perceived from just the volume of our voices, right? If we were loud and having a good time. And sometimes, as you've seen in social media, as you've seen in your own life, in your own experiences, we are looked at as doing too much. You're too loud. Your outfit, the way you express yourself, your tears, your laughter, all of these parts of us, if you think about the life that you've lived and the messages that you have unknowingly digested, until you begin to really sit with that work, sometimes you've digested messages about you that are just not true. They're just not true. You are not doing too much. In fact, your too much is everybody else's mediocrity. They need to level up. But we've been taught right? Whether it's been verbally, directly stated, or whether it's been the way people look at you and you feel not accepted, the way people tell you to shh, the way people look down upon what you're saying. All of these verbal and nonverbal messages encode into the software of our brain and our nervous system, whether or not we're okay. And so whether or not it's a good thing in terms of the bigger picture, y'all, right? Because I want y'all to get out of the narrowness of our own experiences, especially as Black women. And I'm not saying that in a negative way, but stay with me. Get out of the framework of it's just my experience and this is how I was raised or this is what was normal, and think on the bigger scale of, is this a healthy style of communication? Is this a healthy way of being for me, for my people, for others? Am I exuding love? Am I striving for connection? Am I cool, calm, and collected, which may look different across different spaces, right? None of it has to be a right or wrong. It doesn't have to be a either or. It can be a both and. And I think so often we are encoded with messages that come from the outside, which is ran by white supremacy culture. It always comes back to that. We look at systems of patriarchy, systems of oppression, othering other people that are different from us, othering people that lifestyles, choices, all the things that are different from us. And we think about the way in which we determine how to judge and accept people. And let me tell you, you are not your own. Not starting out. You're encoded messages from the outside of that's acceptable, that's not acceptable, right, cousin? That's good, that's bad, that's beautiful, that's ugly, that's kind. Like all of these things are very subjective, right? And it is not until you decide to shut off the voices. It is not until you decide to get with God for yourself and turn off the voices of everybody else from the outside and determine, I am going to sit with God, the God in me, right? I'm going to sit with myself. I'm going to sit with my creator, and I'm going to go back to even the word of God to see what is it that he says about me, right? And so I'm getting into this idea about softening your voice and how it really stops, diminishes, kills your influence. And this is especially important for those of us women who are leading in spaces, right? Who are leading in spaces of community. My beautiful cousin is a beautiful artist. She's always been since we were kids, but she's also a leader in her space. She's doing things that others didn't do until they met her. She's engaging in art in ways that people never imagined or didn't put out there because it may have been happening. We just didn't know. But she's done things that people haven't done. And so I say that to say that we're all leaders in our respective spaces. And the goal of tonight is for you to think about, why is it that I am shrinking? Where do I find myself shrinking? Where do I find myself being more quiet and reserved, not because I'm engaging in my own internal work, like I'm thinking about some things, I'm just being more observant, introspective, because we don't always have to be talking, right? That's not what this is saying, that we always need to be talking. This is saying that I'm not going to shrink my voice for others. I was just talking to my sister via text, and she was sharing that she wanted to engage and do something. And I told her, I said, one thing I want you to think about when you ask yourself this question is, am I doing this because it makes me feel good? Or whatever your answer is, if I'm going to do it or not, is the answer because I am also thinking about what others are going to think, right? And then I told her the top three, because she's married, so I'm not, but she's married. And so I told her the top three for you should be, number one, does it please God? That's number one. Number two, is my husband cool? Are you cool? Number three, am I good? If we're good there, every place else, they're going to have to be okay. See, so often, especially as women, we carry this weight because we're socialized as women. Hey, y'all coming in the chat. We are socialized as women. Hey, sister. We are socialized as women to always be thinking about what others are thinking. We are socialized to always be wondering in terms, and not everybody is socialized this way. There are some spaces where women have actually been able to be free, but there's always the male gaze, the white gaze, right? Right. How do you hop in right on that part, sister? There's always the white gaze. There's always the male gaze, right? Y'all seen those places on those, I won't say memes, but different people posting content, and they're black people in spaces, and they're saying, they could be laughing, they could be sitting, they could be doing something, minding their own business, as we always are. We tend to mind our own business as a people, right? I mean, we can be nosy, but we don't tend to butt in too often. But it's always gonna be one of them looking, watching, waiting, right? It's always the white gaze, always the male gaze. And so as women, we've been socialized to have to consider that all the time. How we dress. If I wear this, are men going to treat me with respect when I go into an establishment? Right? And I said this years ago, I should be able, not that I would, right? But in a world of safety, I should be able to go anywhere. Right? As a black woman, you're never alone, but I should be able to go anywhere and not be afraid that I'm going to be attacked because of what I'm wearing. I should be able to go somewhere and not be afraid that I'm going to be attacked because I decide to say no. And these are the messages that are being encoded into us, right? Whether we see the incidents of women being attacked and villainized and harmed in the streets because they refused the advance of a man, or they refused and chose to say no, all of these things. So guess what? Our girls are watching this because now they're on social media. They're able to see this. Our young daughters, our little sisters, they're watching these messages that say, as women, I have to consistently be on guard. And unfortunately, because we live in a world entrenched in systemic oppression, we can't necessarily live away from that. I was telling my dear friend, she's a therapist, and the only spaces that we really feel that kind of safety to just be are with women that we feel safe with, right? Women who recognize this, women who refuse to engage in the systems of oppression against one another, because that's how insidious the system is it doesn't just hurt you from the outside in, it turns those inside towards each other. And so you have to be so aware, and you have to be so mindful and thoughtful about how is it that I am also treating other women. And even in the spaces of education, we see that sometimes there's this trope, I'm seeing more and more people talk about it, where there may be older Black women who mistreat younger Black women coming into the space trying to rise up on the ladder, right, of mobility, of advancement. And that's another story within itself. So what do we do with all of these messages? Our body seeks the safety. Our body seeks the safety. So if your brain senses a threat, what are some of the threats, Dr. Mel? Some of the threats are judgment. Some of the threats are there's going to be a conflict. If I say this, somebody's going to think of it wrong. There's going to be rejection. If I say this, they're going to try to shut me down in the moment. I could be fearful that they might try to also humiliate me. They may want to argue and try to get me to debate my stance rather than just being able to say what I say and stand on business. Let my no be no and my yes be yes. Let my intellect and my expertise be valued and not scrutinized, right? So when your brain senses that threat, and these are all some things I've had to face. The things I talk to y'all about now do not come from a space of philosophy and study. Yes, I have a doctorate in philosophy, but it doesn't come from that. It comes from my lived experiences and the merged experiences of other people like me, right? What happens in your brain when you sense any of these threats? Your amygdala fires up. And remember, the amygdala is that, I believe it's almond or walnut shaped part of your brain. And it's so small, but makes the biggest impact because it fires off. It is like a guard dog that is determined to keep you safe. And if it senses that something is coming in to try to interrupt or disrupt your safety, it fires off. So now the body can shift into fawn. So remember, when we are going through that amygdala firing up, which is our guard dog, that safety threat detection center, when that place is heightened, is fired up, that dog is now barking, trying to tell you alert, alert, alert. The body can shift into fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Fawn is also called appeasing. It's similar to people pleasing, and it's one of the lesser discussed trauma responses. We don't hear a lot about it as a trauma response. We normally hear about fight, freeze, but there's also appease or fawn, FAWN, right? And so when we have, hold on, y'all, let me make sure this is still streaming. Okay, it was giving me problems on LinkedIn. All right, we're back. Okay, so when you have that problem, the body shifts into that appeasing mode. So what can happen? Your voice will literally tighten. You got to pay attention to your body. I dare you, because I'm going to give you some tips on how to actually move past this. And let me say this. When you work on moving, girl, the nervous system screaming, Sharita. Yes. When you are working to get out of this, it's not going to be comfortable at the beginning, because the brain is trying to get back to safety. And it's saying, whether you want to say it out of your mouth or not, your body, that nervous system is telling you, alert, alert, alert. We're not safe. I'm afraid I'm about to be judged. Somebody's about to question my intellect. Somebody's about to try to demean me or degrade me. And how did this show up when you were a kid? Maybe when you brought forth an idea, you were shushed. And as children, it happened a lot, especially if you had old school boomer parents. It was like, you're a child, stay in a child's place, meaning what you have to say is of no validity, or it is of no place here. And if you grew up just in that, not that your parents necessarily were trying to tear you down and break you down, but just that sent a message to you and your body that me speaking up would mean me getting in trouble. I faced this growing up, but I was a little bit, rebellious and a little bit rah-rah. So because I was so strong in my value and my belief about a certain thing that I didn't care if I got in trouble, right? Since I've been, and now that I know that this is a part of my original design, I was born to be a truth teller. I was born to shake tables. I was born to interrupt and disrupt some stuff and make people feel uncomfortable who are acting in ways that are ungodly. I was born for that. I didn't like that, but I was born for it. So as a kid, I grew up with that in me, but nowhere to really guide and navigate that. Okay. So this is what it looks like when that shrinking, that appease, that fawn mode type comes up. Sometimes your voice can literally tighten, right? You might feel it in your throat, that lump in your throat. Your vocal cords could constrict. Your breath may get shallow. I felt it myself. I could be talking and my voice is like a little shaky. Like I'm not saying it with my chest. It's like I'm really struggling to get it out. Your heart could start racing. Your tone drops because now your mind is telling you, thank you, beautiful cousin. Now your mind is telling you, don't be too much now. Calm down. Don't do too much. You're going to get in trouble. And trouble can look different, right? But you think about as a kid, you're going to get in trouble. Stay in your place. All of these things gave us messages. And so now you think this is what your body tells you to do as a way. And this is what also society is telling us to do. And I'm not saying that some of it is not. You got to find your footing. You got to find you. Because every person's softness is not going to look the same. But softness is not an indicator of weakness. Let us not conflate the two terms. Softness and weakness do not mean the same. My softness is going to sound very different from my cousin Angela. She's always had a softer tone of voice. But I have seen her stand in her power and she didn't have to yell at nobody. I don't think I've ever... Maybe when she was a kid, because she's her oldest sister. But I don't really remember her yelling at anybody that often. But she's powerful in her stance, right? Everybody has to understand who you are and what's your stance. So what this looks like when you try to fund, maybe you think, if I just talked softer, if I just, brought my voice down a little bit, if I was really overly polite. I'm not talking about being kind, because kindness is a fruit of the spirit. We want to be kind to people. But you're trying to be overly polite, right? Your tone of voice may go up, especially for those of us who may be in predominantly white spaces. We got that term code switching, and we see code switching happen. So you may talk in a different vernacular when you're around a certain group of people to try to show up in a way that you believe gives you more influence, but it actually kills that influence. You over-explain. You feel like you need to over-explain because you are trying to prove your validity to you. If I could just get out enough reasons for why I'm saying what I'm saying, then I'm making myself unbelievable to even me. But see, the thing about your authenticity is one of my core values. I've got to be sure of who I am and what my values are and what I stand on before I get into the thick of it. Getting into the thick of it is not the time to be trying to figure it out while you're scrambling for words, while your heartbeat is racing, while you're being confronted or in a conflict. You may learn some things after that time, but in that moment, oftentimes you don't have the space, nor do you feel the psychological safety to even muddle through what it is that you really want to get out. So you over-explain, you smile while you're correcting, you're just trying to do everything to soften it up. Now, what does this look like for Black women leaders? You lower your tone in the meetings because you don't want to be, catch this, the angry Black woman. Nobody wants to carry the trope of being the angry Black woman. So we lower our tone so folks don't think we're upset or we're angry. You rush through your talking points because you don't want to waste too much time because somebody told you that you talk too much. As a kid, especially as girls, we got it bad that we were always talking, and we might have talked a lot. But I'm sure what we were saying was of some value, no matter what age you are, right? But you're taking up too much time. You put disclaimers before you share your expertise. Like, I'm not really sure about this, but, or this might sound crazy, but, or I was just thinking, tell me if I'm wrong, but you apologize before you finish your sentences. So you say a thing and you're already apologizing before you can even get to the end of the sentence. Why are you apologizing if you're connected to who you are designed to be in that moment? If you're designed to disrupt and call out the truth so that the organization can get to a level of productivity that is sustainable for the group, then you've got to say that thing without apology because it's that important. You pick language that softens your authority because culture already taught us, society already taught us that your presence is already a lot. It's too much. But here's what it's costing you as a leader. And I want y'all to tap into this. And I tell women this all the time. You've got to know that people are trusting your clarity, not your hesitation. If you are wrong and you find out you're wrong, come back, correct your wrong, and come in with the right. But in that moment, you have to stand up and be clear about what it is you're saying and say it with your whole chest, not with arrogance, but with clarity. Because clarity, I posted this earlier this week, is not cruelty. Because I'm very clear about my values. I'm very clear about where the organization is going, where the school is going. I'm very clear about what I will stand for and not stand for as a set of values that we are rooted and grounded in as a school, as a business, as an organization, as a corporate model, whatever it is. I'm very clear in that. But if I say something that is wrong in that moment and I don't figure it out until later, I just have to come back and correct, right? Say it with clarity, not arrogance. Very firm, very sure, because people are going to trust your clarity. Because what does clarity mean? Clarity means that I've taken the time to silence all of the noise so that I am clear on the direction that I'm going. That's why clarity is trusted by people. If you want to be a leader in your field or wherever that is, even in your home, you got to be very clear. You can't constantly be hesitating. And then if you're clear that you're unsure on this certain topic, but you're going to go back to gain more clarity so that you can come before the group with more confidence, say that. Because people will recognize that you are human and that you are learning as you grow as well as they are. You're modeling the very behaviors you want to see from your clients, from your customers, from your team members, from your staff. But you've got to be very clear. So a soft voice, when you're too soft, it causes others to discount your expertise. They're not going to think you're really, really on it about what you're talking about. They will feel that uncertainty instead of feeling and knowing that they're headed in the right direction. As a leader, you are in charge of direction. You are in charge of giving the people a blueprint, giving the people a model, giving the people a North Star for where we are going. You're not going to hold their hand every step, but they need to know the path is that way. They need to know the next steps are this way, not that way. And so you've got to be very certain. Your influence drops when you have this softness that seems hesitant or unsure because you're trying to do it in a way that makes other folks feel comfortable. It signals to people that I'm not safe to disagree with you. It's not safe, right? I don't feel safe. And that triggers this group doubt. Because in groups, in teams, disagreement and conflict are the building blocks for sustainability. Because what they do is they bring light to the problems that are internal or that they are perceiving that could be external, right? Those problems can be worked out as we build. If we wait until the thing is all the way built and we don't have any conflict, and we don't discuss any blind spots, we don't go into any what ifs so that we can make sure we're planning so that we can minimize and mitigate the stress after we've done all the building of it failing completely, right? If we don't have this safe space to disagree, this safe space to have conflict, but also be very sure I still know the big North Star. Even if we're working out some of the muddy points, we still got the value set. We've got the set of values that are our core values that never change. Well, I won't say never change. Let me not say that. They can change over time. But right now in this building of what we're doing, the core values are clear. The North Star is clear, right? And because of that, I know that whatever we're doing as a group, as a team, as an organization, is set on a steady path. But when you don't feel sure about that, when your energy level drops and you don't seem sure, your influence drops, right? And then you got some high performers on your team who actually will get overlooked because their delivery doesn't match their competence. So they're really good at what they do, but because they deliver it and talk about it in a way that's uncertain, they talk about it in a way that's not sure. You talk about it in a way that dims your own light. It doesn't match your ability. So the goal is, y'all, that we've got to make sure that what we say matches what we're able to do. So this is where walk it like you talk it comes into play. So here is my 3-step framework, okay? I'm going to give you 3 steps to help speak your truth and make sure you land your ideas, right? 3 steps. So if you want to write these down, put these in your notes, write these 3 steps down. Hey, Dr. Lou. Number 1, say it straight. Say it straight. This is one thing that used to irk me so bad when I was in meetings with my leadership teams at different work locations. You giving me a lot of fluff. Please. I don't need all the fluff. I'm one of those type of people. I don't need all the fluff. If it's an elephant in the room, I can see it. You don't see it? We gonna all act like we don't see what we all actually do see? We're going to skip over what is very much apparent? That makes me feel like you're now a leader that doesn't even consider the energy, the soul of the team. So what do you got to do? You got to say it straight. Drop all that fluff. Lead with your point, not your permission slip. Lead with your point. What is the point of what you are trying to say? Then you can scale back to give more words, more language to how you're going to support and uphold that point. But say it straight, okay? Let me tell y'all the neuroscience behind saying it straight. Direct language, it calms the prefrontal cortex because the brain likes predictability and clarity. Your clarity, your clearness, your directness about the point that you're trying to land in this meeting, the point you're trying to land if it's a professional development training, the point that you're trying to land in this strategy consultation with the upcoming client. This is for whomever, right? Whatever you're saying, know that everybody's brain likes that predictability and that clarity. You have to lead with that. It's going to calm that prefrontal cortex down because that's where decisions are made. That's where creative thinking, analysis, even imagination happens up there. And so your clarity helps regulate either your client, your customer, or the group. Even as teachers, lead with the point. I always tell teachers, when you are teaching something, you want to start with the big picture. You are learning this because, and it's going to require us to do this. And it's going to be hard, but guess what we're going to do? And you lay out that plan to get them towards success. Now they trust you because they're like, okay, she knows what she's doing. She seems like she knows what she's doing. Now we're gonna gauge that as we watch her work. But right now, okay, she's got a clear plan. I can follow somebody with a clear plan. It's hard to follow somebody that's wading through the mud and doesn't even seem like they have the mud off their own eyes. They can't see, I can't see, nobody can see. We all looking crazy. Nobody likes that. Okay. So instead of saying, I was thinking maybe we could, right? Instead of doing that, here's what you say. Here's the plan that will get us results. First, you start here and you just go with the plan. Now, I was thinking maybe, or I don't want to step on anybody's toes. No. We need to shift this behavior because the data is telling us this. And the data doesn't always have to be numbers, you all. Numbers are strong. But you can also talk about anecdotal data. What are the stories that are upholding a certain culture and climate in the building that are impeding, infringing upon our right to be productive, our right to be conducive to one another so everybody's ebbing and flowing together? Step 2. All right, so everybody got step 1, say it straight. I gave you the neuroscience. Now I'm about to go into step 2. Stand in the sound of your voice. I hate to listen to my own voice. And this happens when I have to do editing on content, when I'm looking at stuff. It's just not something I'm really excited about doing. But look, I didn't even notice I was doing it. But I'm doing my own thing that I'm telling you to do. Use full breath. Drop your voice into your chest. Own your tone. Notice how my tone is very matter of fact, because I am giving you tools that are backed by neuroscience that I know will work, not because it's worked for me only, but because it is what works for the brain and the body. So you now say it with your full chest. Speak that thing clearly. Be able to look people in the eye with a layer of authority, right? Looking at everybody, holding your gaze for a few seconds and saying what you mean with authority, right? Because when you take that full breath, this is what happens in the nervous system. So I'm giving y'all this neuroscience angle, okay? So what happens in the body is when breath deepens, the vagus nerve activates, right? That's leading, the vagus nerve goes from here, leads into your belly, which they call the second brain. It activates and it lowers stress signals, right? It helps calm the butterflies. You know that saying, I'm feeling butterflies, because there is a certain layer of anxiety or uncertainty in our bodies. Taking that breath, it helps you to also boost your vocal strength. I have to do this when I'm doing any keynote speaking or I'm presenting any workshops. I have to slow myself down because I am very passionate and emboldened about the things I speak about, but I want to be very strong in what I'm speaking about. So giving that breath is going to lower your stress signals in your body and boost the vocal strength. That's what you need, because your voice is that signal of authority. The same way your posture is, the tone and the richness and the surety and confidence in your voice is a signal of authority. So you got to be grounded. You got to talk to yourself. You got to be your biggest preacher. When you're in those meetings, you got to tell yourself, you got this, girl. Calm yourself down. We are speaking on something that we've done the research about, that we had experience about, that we've sat and reflected with, and we know what we're talking about. So speak with authority. So you lead these meetings with a grounded voice, even if you feel nervous. Hey, Keita, even if you feel nervous, right? It's times I've gotten up and spoken and done keynote speaking, and I was very nervous. People I've never met a day in my life. A lot of my first-time clients are people, especially if it's a room full of people. I rarely know anybody but the person that contacted me to come in and do the assignment. So that happens all the time, right? You're going to feel nervous. Normalize that and be okay with that. But anytime that there's misalignment, take the time to take that breath, right? You don't have to change the pitch of your sound, right? To sound a little nicer so we can, no. If that's not your normal tone and that's not how you normally talk, you don't shift out of your authenticity. Here's another thing you can do. Pause after key points instead of rushing. When you are giving a point, pause. Don't feel the need to rush. And I know sometimes that we're speaking, we're passionate, and we want to get it all out. But one thing I have to always tell myself is to give it a pause. Let it land with the people. Okay? Here's how this works in relationships. Say no and let no be a complete sentence. Amen, sis. Don't shift out of your authenticity. Say no with a period and move forward. If they have questions later, you can address those later. Name your needs without shrinking your volume. Say the thing out loud. Because if you don't, it's still going to live in your body. It's still going to be a part of your experience, and you'll be the one suffering. And as a leader, you've got to model what healthy transparency and vulnerability looks like in teams, with your clients, with your people in relationships, and what it looks like to voice your hurt without apologizing for your tone. Because as Black women, we always have to think about, unfortunately, we're thinking about it. Until we start to do this work, we begin to think about it. We begin to think about that apologetic tone. All right, this is the step 3 of the framework. So step 1, I'm going to say that again. Say it straight. This is a 3-step framework to speak your truth and land your ideas. Say it straight. Stop with all the extra fluff. Say it straight. Number 2, stand in the sound of your voice. That means give it a full breath. Drop your voice into your tone. Own your tone. You don't have to change your pitch to make other people happy. Hey, Fahari. Say those things and say it with your chest. Okay. And then step 3, let your idea land. What does this mean? Stop worrying about softening the impact of what you're saying. Sometimes you're going to have to say hard things. If you are a leader, you are inevitably going to have hard conversations. Number 1, it is not your responsibility to emotionally regulate your team members. Can you co-regulate with them? Yes, you can co-regulate. That's the beauty of relationships, right? But as full-fledged adults, and we know it's not true that everybody who's a full-fledged adult is emotionally mature. Everybody's on a different layer of the journey. But as a leader, in that moment, if you're in a team meeting, if you're in a staff meeting, whatever it is, you can't always soften the impact, because some of the stuff you've seen is atrocious. Some of the stuff you've seen is harmful. It's unjust. It's not right. Why are we trying to soften up and patty cake when we're seeing things that just don't make sense? We don't have time to patty cake when it's time to talk about injustice. Say it with your chest. It's going to land on them hard. Guess what? They'll be okay. Because if you don't put an emphasis on how important it is for them to take what you're saying seriously, they're not going to take it seriously. And now you have people going on and on doing the same harm after you've had 5 to 6 different staff meetings, one-on-ones, everything else. But because you're trying to peddle their emotions and you're trying to muddle through all of that, you're still dealing with the same harm. And if you're in schools, you got children who reverberate through generations, right? That harm doesn't just stay with them. That harm goes on through generations. And now we've got this dual capacity framework that Dr. Karen Mapp from Harvard talked about as to why some parents have this already instinctive animosity with the school before they even get to the school. It's because of what they encountered, and it's living in their bodies. So some of the things that are happening, we got to stop it. We can't make room. We've got to be able, to make room to sit with this idea long enough so that people take it serious. Thank you, sis. People need to take it serious, right? Here's the neuroscience angle. Silence creates a processing gap. And the brain needs that gap to integrate what you are saying into their psyche, into their soul. When you talk nonstop, on and on and on and on, people are less likely to absorb the point. The main point you're trying to make, people are less likely to absorb it. So what does this mean? In leadership, show the data, pause, look at the team and just wait. Let the people feel what they feel with the data. You don't have to give the data and, we got to rush through it. No. Right for hard. We're doing this work with children and it's very urgent. There's no time to hold back. Very good point. Accountability plus care equals impact. Thank you for saying that. So true. We got to present what we need to present, pause and let it sit. They're going to be okay. They're going to be okay. Say the boundary clearly, then stop talking. I remember sitting in meetings, and I've watched some amazing women leaders do this, where they say the thing, and they don't do all of that, but they say the thing, and they take a look at everybody, and they let it sit. So nobody gets distracted. Nobody can walk away saying, I didn't hear that. No. Because even if they weren't listening, they're going to now be tuned in to the silence. And then maybe you need to say it just one more time to make sure that everybody heard that this is the boundary very clearly. Give directions, not hints and suggestions. We're not here. This is step 3. Let your idea land of the 3-part framework. Give the direction, not the suggestion. This is what we're doing. Right? I'm pivoting in my business. So in addition to working with schools and leaders in the education space, these ideas land when we're talking about the nonprofit space, the community leader space, the business idea space, right? When you're having to pitch and propose your ideas out to others, even the corporate space. As women leaders, you need to say the thing and mean it with your whole chest. And then even in family and relationships, right? Here's what I need moving forward. And pause. That was hurtful and it can't happen again. That was hurtful and it can't happen again. Notice how I didn't that was hurtful and it better not have. Especially if you're talking to a man, y'all got to know sometimes everything's not going to land when you do it like that, okay? If you want it to land and not just get it off your chest, but if you want to say it with your chest, okay, and you want it to land, that was hurtful. And it can't happen again, right? I had to tell even my own daughter the other day. She's a teenager, and of course they're self-centered and absorbed, but it's only so much I'm going to allow. And I'm working within myself to make the generations forward talk and communicate from a place of healing. So I let her know that was hurtful. It makes me feel less appreciated. And then I walked off. Guess what she did? She came back around, wanting to hug, wanting to make it right, feeling remorseful in her own way. I didn't have to bark her down. And I've done that before. Try to lecture them down. Sometimes you just got to say what it is, let it land, and move on. Okay? So remember, y'all, your authority doesn't have to be aggressive. I'm closing out because today's conversation, if you missed it, I believe this, and I know this to be true. This was a powerful conversation, especially for those of you who are in leadership. And if you're in leadership, I don't care where you are, the goal is always upward mobility. And I don't mean in just moving in positions. I mean in the confidence that you feel in your role and identity as a leader. The goal is I want to be the type of leader that is cool, calm, and collected, right? And connected. I want to experience these things which will help me lead with authority without feeling like I need to coerce and make people comply. But I actually know how to lead from authority. I don't have to be aggressive, right? I don't have to do all these things. So if you missed this, go back. I'm going to post the replay again, okay? I'm going to just upload it here for everybody to go back. So here are my last points. How to lead with authority without being aggressive. Okay, y'all share this out with some other women leaders because we all need to be talking about these things. Nobody's really giving too many classes and conversations around how we need to think about our being, our identity as leaders, because you're not just a leader in a specific space. You're a leader in multiple spaces, but most importantly, you're a leader in your own body. How are you leading yourself? How are you leading your nervous system? Right? So remember, authority lives there. It lives in your nervous system, not in your volume. Your nervous system is going to be the responder to what's happening internally. It's going to let you know what's going on. So when you're aggressive, that's dysregulation. But when you're in authority, you are in regulation, right? You're regulating because you have taken that deep breath. You're allowing your ideas, what you're saying, to land. You're speaking with authority and confidence. You are sure and clear because clarity is not cruelty, it's confidence. And as a leader, you should be confident in what you're bringing to your team. That's why you're the leader. Doesn't mean you know it all, but the things you do know, you know. Okay? When your voice is steady, your body feels safe. Your tone is clean. You don't tip into harshness. You don't have to put nice, nasty on it. Let's dispel that, women, especially women of God. We don't have to do that. We can speak with authority. Now, will some people say that it's mean or nasty, depending on how they define mean and nasty? Because some people don't want to be told that what they're doing is inappropriate. They don't want to be corrected. They don't want to be led, especially by you as a Black woman. Let's just be real. Some people don't like that you got the position. Some people don't like that you're trying to tell them what's not going to happen, even though you are the one getting paid to lead the team. That's just the reality, right? And this is why I'm creating this community. I believe I put the link in my bio, but I know I've been posting it somewhere. I'm going to make sure it's in the bio. But this is why I'm creating this collective of Black women, especially for Black women who lead. We need spaces where we can unpack this, we can talk about this. And my goal for the upcoming year is to create more in-person spaces. I've heard the voice of the people. The people are wanting to get back in person a little bit more. The people are wanting to be back in spaces where they can talk about this stuff and, be in some hot seat coaching, have some fun with it, do a little role play scenarios, or get to meet other women and hear from them what they're doing that's working. We need each other. Okay, so tap into community if you hadn't. All right, so for Black women, the double bind is this. Culture's going to say too much when you're clear. Be okay with that. But when you're invisible, if you're invisible, when you shrink, you're going to be invisible. Okay, don't shrink. That leads to invisibility. As a leader, you need to be seen, you need to be valued, you need to be heard. So the solution is regulating your authority. Clarity. Do your homework. If it's something you present to your people, you need to know it front, back, left to right, or you need to have a delegated person that you can trust to be that knowledge bearer. But don't come up there as a leadership team and you don't know your stuff. Now the people don't trust you because you're throwing something at them that you don't even know about. And that was one thing that would just irritate me to no end. Okay? Be clear, be grounded, be unapologetic. All right? So I am done for today. I've enjoyed this conversation. My goal is to come in every week. I'm trying to think. I did my Sunday sermon. I don't think I did last week, but it's like every week, every other week. I'm not going to put myself, because these are basically like free conversations, PDs, leadership workshops, so to speak. So I'm not going to put too much pressure on myself, but I do want to have these conversations more, because I want you all to know that it's okay to tell people straight. It's not your voice that is the problem, right? Your nervous system may just be reacting to old systems and old environments that punished you for being powerful. Recognize that. Do your soul work. Ask yourself tonight. This is just off the dome, but I've done this. When was the first time I felt silenced? When was the first time that I remember feeling silenced, or feeling ashamed for speaking up, or feeling like my voice did not have value? Who was the conduit of that? Think about it. And this is not about blaming folks. If it was your mama, your daddy, whoever, we're not saying this so you can have a horrible relationship. You need to figure out what's the system that allowed that to thrive, and how did you carry it on throughout your life? Because if you didn't tear it down, you carried it. Sorry. And if you never even recognized it until now, you're just kind of really thinking about this for real, then it's definitely lived on. Maybe not in every space, maybe not in every moment, but if it's lived in your body, it's lived on, okay? So clear authority is a skill, right? It's not about a personality trait. This is about building your skill set as women who lead, right? The thought is, if you want influence, get more strict with your tone, right? Get more strict with your attitude. But here's the thing. If you want to be influential, get strict with your breath. Take that deep breath. Be strict with that. Be strict with naming the truth. Okay? Get strict with naming the thing. I have a new phrase I heard from somebody, and they said, say the quiet thing out loud. Don't be afraid. Right? Now, we're not going to set up a station for gossip. Right? We ain't going to say the gossip all out loud. But if there is some things that are happening that need to be brought to the group, because sometimes they just need to be brought to the person one-on-one. I couldn't stand the email that was really meant for one or two people, but you sent it to the whole staff. I don't need to feel that energy, because now I'm wondering who you talking about. Oh, the people wondering that when you send those emails to the whole staff and it's really only about one or two people, or maybe two or three people, you could have really talked to them one-on-one. But sometimes we're afraid to have those one-on-one conversations. Brooke, I experienced it. And so one thing I try to think about as a leader in my own right, I try not to do the things that I know were detrimental to how I perceived my leader, right? If I saw that my leader is sending out this message, let me tell you what it shows me. And I see it now with some of the clients that I don't work one-on-one with their leaders, but I work with their teachers, and I kind of see and hear some of the things going on. When you send out those types of emails to the whole staff, when it could have been addressed to a small group, what that shows me is you ain't really about the life you say you are. As a leader, you kind of scary. As a leader, the people got you in the chokehold. They holding you by the kahunas. And leaders like that, I'm looking at you kind of like, So you can go either kind of way, right? You going to do really more what's comfortable for you than what's good for the group. And to be honest, sending out that big old email to everybody when it was only 5 people and you got 50 people on staff, it's giving weak. That's what I'm just telling you what the people are thinking. And the goal is not that you need to impress everybody, but you have to be perceived as an impactful and strong leader. People need to be able to trust that you are the leader. You lead people. You don't let them lead you. You may collaborate with them. You may work side by side with them, but you're the vision holder and you're the authority that makes sure the vision is being carried out. right? Or saying it in a meeting, Brooke, the same thing there. Talk to those people. If it's a small group, don't bring that energy to the whole staff. That can kill momentum, community, all the things, right? Name the truth. Get strict about not abandoning your voice when the room gets tense. Breathe. Tell yourself, you got to pump yourself up. See, this is why, not to toot my own horn, but it's good to have a coach. I have a client that is doing really, really great, and she is a principal in California, and she is more soft spoken. And working with her, she has been able, well, working with me, let me just be real about it. She has been able to name the emotions that she's experiencing so we can call them up and out. Okay, so when I said that, I was not very sure. And when I told this one staff member this, and I know we talked about doing this, well, I got nervous in the moment because I didn't want to be perceived as mean. I didn't want to be perceived as not being a team player. I didn't want them to not like me. Like, these are real things. Don't sit and lie if that's what you're really experiencing, because your coach, your mentor, your community member, your sister, whomever is helping you can't help you navigate through that if you're not willing to be real with yourself and your coach. And so we work through, okay, this is the normal emotion you can expect to feel the next time. But I am challenging you to take a deep breath, say it anyway, and let it sit. And then you sit and journal and reflect how you feel after that person has gone out. And let's talk about that when we come back in our next coaching session. This is what her and I have been able to do, and I do with my other clients that are either business owners, they're school leaders, they are leaders in their corporate space, wherever they're leaders at. This is one, and this is what I'm leaning more into in this pivot in my business is I really want to work with more women leaders. I'm on a mission by the end of 2026 to work with at least 1,000 business women. And when I say business, you standing on your business, whether you're a leader in a school, in a district, in a community organization, or you are in a nonprofit, or you work in corporate spaces, or you just want to be a better leader in your own life, because it's life and leadership coaching. And I want to do that more. So my goal, my mission is to work, yes, because action cures fear. I remember Rakim said that. Action cures the fear. You've got to do the thing and then sit with it afterwards. But if you never, ever speak up in your authority, if you continue to abandon your voice because you've been used to abandoning your voice in your life, at your church, at your community center, in your relationships, in your marriage, wherever it is, you never really felt you had a voice until you had to go off and act a little crazy. That's not it, sis. We've got to be able to own our voice, not abandon it, even when the room gets tense. And life is a great teacher, but there are also specific frameworks. So this 3-part framework that I just gave you all, I want you all to take this, right? Save this live. Go back and watch it. You may need to go back and watch it and take notes. Sit and marinate on this stuff. Right? Sit and marinate on this stuff and give yourself one small challenge. What is one thing you're going to get stricter with yourself about? Which part of the 3-part framework that I gave you are you going to take into your next meeting, into your next proposal, into your next phone call, right? And share it with a sister who you know keeps shrinking as well, but you know she's brilliant and you looking at her like, oh my God, I can't understand. Help a sister out, okay? Because even though she's brilliant, she keeps shrinking. Share this with her. Tell her this message is for her. And I want you to join the community. I'm going to put this, I'm going to make sure the link to the community. If you're on my Facebook group, I did it's the post book. I think it's on my last live I did on Sunday. And it is in the comments on Facebook. That community is there. Also, if you're on Instagram, the community link was in my stories. I don't know if I added it to my profile. I'm going to do better. I'm going to get it done. Be on the lookout for it and get connected, because we're going to be doing virtual events. We're going to be doing in-person events. And even though I'm here in Arkansas, I don't want to keep them only to Arkansas. So we have enough community members that show up in different spaces, and we can gather up small groups of other women leaders who want to grow in their different aspects of leadership. I will be on tour, right? That is a goal next year, for me to go on tour, on a speaking tour, a workshop tour next fall, where I'm going around and we're having these kinds of conversations. And I don't need big crowds, because I want to be able to touch the soul. So we're looking at crowds of less than 50 or at 50, unless the Lord says something different, right? But we want to go on tour, and we want to take these conversations around the country, around the world. So if you're watching this in the replay, drop the hashtag replay in the chat. Otherwise, we are done for tonight. Thank you all for joining and for watching. Be sure to stay connected. Follow me on all of the channels. For my people on LinkedIn, let me put my little ticker right here. Oh, all right. Follow me, Dr. Mel with Soul, on IG and TikTok. Melanie Desmuke on Facebook. Melanie Battles. It'll be changed soon, y'all. On LinkedIn. Follow me in all the places. I love you all. Walk in your authority. Keep influencing without apology. Peace out.